Yep. And then I'm going to hit the broadcast button. All right. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You know how that's how I always kick it off, because we are live when we are around the world. So I want to say hi to all my Facebook friends up here on the iPhone, and I want to say hi to all my YouTube people out over here, and of course everybody else on Zoom. I'm Lightheart. This is live from the Digital Republic. The ranting, the raving, the insight, the craziness, the madness, it's all here on the Digital Republic. And for those who don't know what the Digital Republic is about, what it's about, basically it's the background of an idea that came to me 5 years ago while I was living in Bali, Indonesia, living the laptop lifestyle that so many people talk about, dream about. I was in a workplace, and it had a co-working spot called Ubud in Ubud, Bali, Indonesia. And there was about 250 different members from all around the world, every different age group, from like teenagers to senior citizens, consultants, internet marketers, everything you could possibly imagine. It was a pretty amazing group of people. And I was like, look at all these people from all around the world, and they're all doing this online marketing, online business. They're not wasting time on social media. They're actually using social media in a way to build their businesses and create the lifestyle they want. And it's a fantastic world to potentially live in. But as I identified on an earlier issue a week ago, I talked about how so this was last episode. You can go back on YouTube and find it. But I talked about the mindset between an entrepreneur and an employee. Now, the first thing I want to say is there's nothing wrong with being an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur. I was just trying to break down exactly how we come to those conclusions in our businesses or in our life, or why we end up choosing what we choose as a vocation, and how that gets formed and how those belief systems get formed. And so I broke that all down last week. But that's not what I'm going to talk about this week. This week, I'm going to talk about what's really holding you back, because now we understand the difference between thinking like an entrepreneur. Now we understand thinking like an employee, and what's the positive and negatives of both sides of that from last week, or what kind of results that happens. And so if you're listening to this, you're probably, you're at least a want-to-be entrepreneur, if not an entrepreneur, that you're in a business operation of some sort, or you're endeavoring maybe in direct sales, maybe you're in affiliate marketing, maybe you're in some sort of start your own business, a consulting business or something. But if you're listening to this, you probably, you want to create this life, quote unquote, this laptop lifestyle, or you be your own boss, or work your own hours, or do your own mission, whatever that happens to be for you. You know all the buzzwords out there, right? Well, what's really holding you back? Okay, that's the topic that we're going to talk about. And there's two categories that get, I think, overly, what's the word I'm doing? Overly emphasized. And these two categories are success and failure. If I make a certain amount of money, I win a certain trophy, I drive a certain car, I'm in a certain relationship, or I'm a member of the whatever club, or I live in this certain part of town, or I have these titles and letters and associations of acknowledgement, or I'm with the quote-unquote right people, I'm successful. This is the world's definition of success, okay? That's how we define success. And then failure is somehow if I didn't get the titles or the money or the personal, the relationships or whatever is deemed as successful. Now, here's the ironic part. Success and failure are going to be defined differently by everybody. Most people would think a guy like Arnold Schwarzenegger is very successful. However, if you were perhaps maybe in a women's group that was, in looking at successful long-term relationships, and the marriage relationship that he ended up having with Maria Shriver, that might be considered something that he failed, right? He failed in that. And so the question is, you know, and I'm using Arnold as a great example because he's a public persona and he's had a tremendous amount of success in a lot of areas. He was an athletic star. He was a millionaire at 28 in the 60s, or in the 70s, it is. But, he became the highest paid actor in the world and became the governor of the world. And now he's into kind of public service and making a difference. He's a special teams or Special Olympics guy. And he was married to a Kennedy, Maria Shriver. And then, of course, they had the challenge in their relationship. They raised a bunch of kids, and he's kept on. So the question is he successful or is he not successful? Because he's had a failure in one part of his life, let's say. Now, some people would say, yeah, he's a failure or he's a success. Or they're going to compare themselves to that. And that's a big problem. And the problem is you start running every decision that you make. You start running your life by someone else's definition. You start making decisions, or I think what actually happens is you stop making decisions that put you at risk of what could be perceived by someone somewhere as failure. Think about that. I want you to think about that for a second. What actions, and I'm talking to you directly like we were sitting down together and you and I are having a coaching session. And I'm looking at you and I'm saying, okay, because that's actually what we're doing. So you've got this thing of success, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just call success your vision. This is the vision of your life. First and foremost, have you actually wrote out clearly what success looks like to you? What would be a successful day? What kind, like the more specific you can determine what success is for you, the better off you are. I'm going to tell you one of the most successful people I know. Okay, I remember who got success early. I remember I went to school, the guy named Jamie, and Jamie struggled in school. He didn't like school. He had a hard time in school, but he wanted to be a truck driver. His dad was a truck driver. He loved trucks. He was good at trucks. He wanted to be a truck driver. And I can remember specifically he was in an argument with the teacher at school, in high school, and he said, look, I don't care about doing this. It's not important to me. When I get out of school, I'm going to go be a truck driver. I'm going to buy myself a truck, and I'm going to be an independent owner-operator of a truck. And guess what? He got out of school, he got a truck, and he's been a truck driver ever since. Now, I see this fellow, Jamie, as an absolute success. And if you look at his principles, he was clear about what he wanted. He was clear about the things that determined what success was for him. And he just went out and did it. And he didn't care that the authority person, in this case, his teacher, wanted him to follow a different way. That teacher didn't necessarily define that situation that he wanted as successful. The teacher defined him passing in his test with a certain grade from that person. Now think about that. We just assume that the school system is relative. We just assume that that's a good definition of success. And I will tell you this, there are so many people that get shut down from their super self from the education system because the education system is defining success under their terms. And they're projecting projecting what success is. They're giving you a grade, they're giving you a mark. And that system was built for a world that doesn't exist anymore. It was built to train people to be factory workers, and it was good at it. But it doesn't work anymore because most of the jobs it prepare you for doesn't exist, or you've got to continue to go on to school and get tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And unlike a business that fails and you can go bankrupt, you cannot go bankrupt on a student loan anymore. So think about this. People are buying into an education, which is a program. It's a promise to success. It defines that success. It takes up 12, 16, even 20 years of your life. The longer you go, the more times it takes up, and the more money it's going to cost. And when you get out, you're going to be deeply in debt, sometimes after going to school nonstop for 16 or 20 years. You haven't made a dime. You've been dependent on the entire system. You have now got a debt that's unforgivable. Does that make sense? Now, that's not to say there's not some people. I had another friend, his name was John. We went to university together. John was a bona fide genius. I hardly ever saw him open a book. And he was a straight A student in physics. And he was going to quit university because he was bored, you know. And I told him, we used to go hang out together. We used to talk about the world. And it was kind of like Mutt and Jeff. I was an athletic kind of jock guy in the phys ed program, you know, that sort of thing. And he was a physicist, you know, figuring out, you know, plasma physics in the upper atmosphere. And he was bored. And I didn't like school. I realized that school wasn't going to work for me, and he was going to walk out of his finals like I was. And I said, you know, John, why don't you go talk to the dean, because you can actually talk to the dean. The dean won't talk to me, but the dean will talk to you because you're one of the gifted students here. And he went in, and he told him he was bored, and guess what? The university said, you know what? I got a project for you. He started working on a NASA project, putting a rocket ship up to test. He was doing some temperature tests up in space. He went on to become a master's, then a PhD, and he ended up being the head of the Gottlieb Space Center for NASA. Now, why am I telling you that story? Two people, totally different. Now, is he a success? Sure, he's a success in that area. Is John a success? Yes. Is Jamie a success? Did they take completely different processes in life? 100%. So, how does this relate to you? Well, it relates back to you because you've got to define what your vision of success is. Is your vision of success one that you really defined, or was it defined for you? Right? Did your parents tell you what success was be? Did your partner tell you what success was be? Did your education system? Did a social media guru talk about success? What is success for you? Have you clearly defined it? Maybe success is not commuting every day. Maybe success for you is spending more time with your kids. Maybe it's having a garden. Maybe it's learning a new language. Maybe it's traveling the world. I don't know. But if you do not have a clear definition of what success looks like, you are going to run around the world chasing this thing called success, and you're never going to get there, because whatever success you have, you're going to compare it to someone else's, and you're going to say, that person was more successful and what I failed. I'm a failure. And I see this all the time. I see it so many times with so many people that I've coached, is they've set themselves up in a trap. And the trap started because they didn't clearly define success for themselves. So I'm going to give you an idea. I'm going to give you a process that is going to help you achieve success. And then I'm going to circle back around, because I'm going to talk about the things that block people from that. So the first thing that you need to do is you need a vision for your life. What is it that you want to do? And that vision needs to be reviewed, because it can change periodically, right? It can change to different things and different ideas, you know, different phases. Like when I was 18 years old, success for me was going to the Mr. Universe contest. Success for me, and then a little bit later on, success got me defined as my own business. And then success became having a successful business. And then success became redefined as an online business. And then success became an online business that had people working for me. And then, you know, it kept changing as I went along and getting clearer or shifting as you go, because you get older in life and things change. family comes in, relationships come in, all kinds of stuff happens that you can't plan for. So number one, I call this the V gap. V gap. So V and then GAP. That's a model that we're going to use. So first, you write out your vision. Second, you convert your vision to goals, because when you create a grand master vision, okay, like when I was in my early 20s, I had a dream. In that dream, I was going to have a bodybuilding championships. I was going to have a nutritional supplement company. I was going to live in California, and I was going to have all these things, and I had houses and a certain amount of money and all that sort of stuff. Now, the funny part is, I had to turn that vision into goals. And when I started out, I realized I couldn't be an athlete and a business person at the same time when I started out. I just didn't have enough energetic resources to do that, to work, do business, and compete. So I had to make a sacrifice, and I knew that I couldn't do my athletic career when I was in my 40s. I had to take my shot now, and that meant I'd have to take a step backwards financially. In other words, I couldn't worry about working a job. I was offered, get this. I was offered a job working at the co-op warehouse, because I worked there in the summers and I was good at my job. And it was a warehouse where I literally picked stuff and put it on a pallet and we shipped it places. Now I'll tell you the full story. It's really cool how life works. I didn't really like that job. I hated it. But so I made a goal not to stay, because I had the opportunity to sign on and be part of the union and get the pension and all those things, and it paid really well relative to the environment. But I just didn't. That wasn't my determination. So I wanted to be a bodybuilding champion and be a public person and all these type of things. So I took a job as a doorman. Okay, and it was a rough place. I literally had to fight about 5 times a week on average. Some weeks you fought once or twice. Sometimes I had one night where I was in 5 different fights in one night. And some of these fights would be barroom brawls, like, on the Dukes of Hazzard. Now, everybody in my environment thought I was crazy. Why are you choosing to put your life at risk in a bar? Because it didn't make sense, but I had a vision. I had a vision that this was going to allow me to do my bodybuilding career, because I was training twice a day, give me enough time. I had enough money to survive. I didn't care if I drove a new car. I didn't care if I didn't own a house like some of my friends. I didn't care about that stuff, because I had defined vision clearly for myself. And I had a goal, and that goal is I needed to win the New Brunswick Championships, and then I needed to win the National Championships, and that would allow me to go to the World Championships, because that was where I needed to get to in order to achieve my vision. And so I worked backwards from the main goal, Mr. Universe, the national champion, provincial championship, local championship, and I was working through that thing. Now that took me 10 years to win my provincial championship. Now, did I fail for the 9 years? I competed in 4 different shows. I didn't win any of those shows. I lost every one. Okay, I came, my first show I came 3rd. My second show, I came 4th. My 3rd show, I came 3rd again. So I wasn't that successful. Okay. Then I figured out how to win, and I won. I left the working the co-op job. I had left university. People thought I was crazy. I wasn't going to be an academic. I wasn't going to get a regular job. I'm now fighting 5 times a week in a nowhere bar. But conversely, I knew that the real money was in being the real money was in being a bartender. So in conjunction, while I was fighting and working a manual labor job and training all the time, I took this other job. Now I'm telling you all this because I want you to break things down so you understand your goals. Okay. So what happened, I'm doing all this stuff, and everybody around me is telling me that I'm not successful. I'm not doing the process. I'm an academic failure. I'm an employment failure. I don't own a house. I don't have a new car. I don't have the right people in my life. But that's okay, because I define vision, and you need to define your vision for yourself and nobody else. And then you need to break it down into goals. What from the vision, what do you need to do next? And there's a natural progression in those things. And for me, I had to work on my bodybuilding. I wanted a business career. I just couldn't do both. So I did it. And I got, eventually I got my bartending job, but I got my course. I did 100%. And I actually got 105% on the course because I had an extra piece and I did all that stuff. And I'm still working out. And I'm doing all those things. It still doesn't look like success. I win the contest. They wouldn't let me become the bartender until I won the contest, because as soon as I won the provincial championship, they knew that everybody from everywhere would come in and they'd want to knock out Mr. New Brunswick. So they knew they couldn't keep me on the door anymore. I had to force people to give me my shot. That got me on the bar. That was a life-changing moment because it was the first job I had that was actually fun, making money. And I realized that the more money you make, oftentimes the more fun the job is. The worse money I made, the worse the job was. And that was like a total brain shift. So going back to your vision and your goals, okay? So you set the V-gap. So you start your vision, you turn it into goals. So let's say your goal is to live in a multi-million-dollar mansion, to have a $1 million business, to be married to the perfect person that's right for you, that you have some standard in whatever field, some political standing in whatever field, and that you have your health, okay? And you've got a spiritual practice. That's a grand master vision. So these are kind of things that I did. Which one do you need to work on next? How much do you need to focus on it? And what do you got to cut out of your life to focus on those things? Because now we live in the world of distractions. I was fortunate. I grew up in a time that didn't have the internet, didn't have social media, didn't have text messaging, didn't have a cell phone, didn't have all the distractions that we have today. And those things allowed me to be focused. And I'm telling you, social media for a lot of people is ruining their lives. We've learned to become spectators in life and not participants in life. And I'm encouraging you to participate in your life right now. If you want to start participating, write down what's my vision. Then the next thing you got to go, what are my goals? And those goals need to be related to the vision, right? And the goal and those goals also have to be connected to your values. That's a whole other issue, which we won't dive into too deep. But if your goals are out of alignment with who you are, it's probably because of what your vision and your goals is what somebody else wants for you, not what you want for you. Okay? Generally, that's the case. If you're doing something and you're not following where you want to go, or it's not feeling right, or you're not happy, it's because your goals or your vision is out of alignment for who you really are, what's really, because you've bought into somebody else's idea of success, and then, or you actually believe you're a failure because someone programmed you that, and you're going to set yourself on a course to follow someone else's goals of success, and even if you get there, you get everything that you want, and you're still miserable. Well, which makes sense to you? So again, defining success and failure, there's no such thing as either one. They're both illusions. They're both a lie. There is no success and there is no failure. Okay? It's a convenient terminology and languaging. You're living. You're a success. You're here. If there's breath in your lungs, you're successful. And if you die in alignment with yourself, you're still successful. You're dead, but you died successfully by how you determined how you wanted to die. We're all going to die. A lot of people don't think about that either. They live like they act like they're going to live forever. You're not. Life is a finite thing. It's a relative. I mean, yes, you can get into the esoterics and the spiritual side, which I believe in, and that's great. But in the context of our lives right now, how are you putting this in a box? How are you defining this? So what does that mean? And it comes down to, how are you accounting? Like, what is the accountability that you have? Like, what do you measure progress with? So accounting is designed, or accountability is you putting checks and balances to see if you are on track towards your vision and towards your goals. Okay, so you put in accountability system. So for me, the accountability system, let's go back to bodybuilding because that was simple. It was how much muscle I was building, what was my body fat level, what was my training intensity like, how much weights was I lifting, and out of that process emerged contest victories. Now, I would go to contests to kind of get an outside resource of my progress. Because remember, I wanted to go to the Mr. Universe. So I'm getting outside results, not an internal process. And for the first 10 years, the outside process said, son, you're not good enough. You're not good enough to win a local show. You're not good enough to win a provincial show. And you definitely ain't good enough to win a national show or go to a world championships. Now, I could have determined those 10 years as failures. Okay? So if you're embarking on something, youth might think, hey, I'm failing. You're not failing. Okay? You're producing results. The question is how are you measuring those results? If you are only measuring it on an external result, you're in trouble. If it's only victories, if it's only dollar amounts, if it's only letters beside your name or whatever the world determines as success, you're in trouble from the get-go. You've got to be able to get accountability. You've got to celebrate the victories. You got to celebrate the process, which is the next part of the V gap. So the V gap is first your vision. You take your vision into a set of goals. You build a counting system. That's an internal and external representation system. You know, did I work out today? Whatever the goals are, and if it's your business, and I'm using this in my personal life, and I'm going to explain how I brought this back into business. And then finally, what is the process that you're using to get that? And those processes need to be upgraded and reviewed all the time while you're going through your process, while you're going through your business. Okay, you need to upgrade those things each and every week, each and every year, every month, whatever that has to be. There's going to be periods. Generally, I think for most people, a quarterly review like big corporations do. Review your processes, I think, every 90 days. Do your accounting on literally a yearly accounting, a monthly accounting, a weekly accounting, and a daily accounting, okay? Whatever that process is for you, okay? The V gap, that's what I call it. Vision, goals, accounting, and processes, right? Those are the framework. And that's what I did. And so, yes, I got success and all that sort of stuff, the world-defined success and all that stuff. But I went to the Mr. Universe contest, and I wanted to win the Mr. Universe contest. But when I got there, I had a couple things. Number one, I wanted to compete as a vegetarian. Number two, I wanted to compete without drugs. I didn't want to violate the rules, even though I knew my competitors were doing that. Okay, I knew that I would be competing against people that were breaking the rules that we had determined by, because they wanted to win, and that was not out of alignment with their values. It was okay for them to break the rules to win than it was to stay with their values and not win. Now, I stayed with my values. I'm not saying that to brag. I stayed in alignment with my values, and I went through the contest. This was like 16 years after I started, keep in mind, okay? And I came 13th in the world, which isn't that great. It's pretty good, right? 13th in the world's not bad, but it wasn't outstanding. It wasn't first. It wasn't necessarily the goal or the vision I had. But I stayed in alignment with my values. So you know what? I walked away from that contest feeling like a success because I determined what the success was. And you know what happened? The miraculous happened. I showed up early. I got interviewed I was one of the first people that arrived in the airport. I flew into Delhi at 3 o'clock in the morning. It turned out that the Hindustan Times had an article posted on them. They met with me. They found out I was into meditation and I was a vegetarian, and the contest happened to be in India. They thought that was really cool. They ran a big public story on me. They ran a public story on me in Vancouver. That when I came back to Canada, I was able to line up a better job in my gym. I was able to make more money. I was able to get more clients. I had all these experiences, not because I won, but because I defined success. I got to that point and my business blew up. I had another crisis, as you know, and that led me to building the company that I own today by Optimizers. So you don't know the route. And then that company, all of a sudden created opportunities for me to California. I'm going through the visa process for that. So all of these things happened from my 20s, thinking about that vision and that dream. Actually, when I was a teenager, I had that dream, listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's book. And here I am 32 years later, from the 15-year-old that started watching Conan movies and reading Arnold Schwarzenegger magazines to actually living and breathing and being in that world. Now, how does this relate to you? Why did I tell that big, long, convoluted story? Because we're talking about what's holding you back. And what's holding you back is your determinations of success and failure. And your inability, or not taking the time to clearly define the vision, the goals, your accounting system, and your process over top of your values, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and that's it. And if you don't do all that stuff, if you don't organize your life in that way, you're going to get way off course. You're going to end up in a place that's really unhappy. You're going to become successful, and it's going to be empty because you never really defined success for yourself. My mom wanted to be a homemaker. She was clear in high school. She wanted to go be a homemaker. She had a challenging time in school. It wasn't easy for her, but she also wanted to have her grade 12 education. She stuck it out, got her grade 12 education, got a job, married her high school sweetheart, got married, had a family, created a wonderful life. She's got great friends. She's got a nice relationship with her community. She has a nice relationship with her church. She has a lot of friends. She has her health. She grows a little garden, lives a very simple life, and one of the most successful people I know. Now, does she have a YouTube channel? No. Does she have millions of followers? No. Does she have millions of dollars in her bank account? No. None of that stuff. Does she have a husband and kids who love her? Yeah. Did her daughter die? Yes, her daughter died. Is that a failure for her as a mother? No. Some people would take that on as a failure. So, she said, well, I had 22 years with my daughter. It's painful. Look, life is going to beat you up. Life is not easy. Life, as determined by the greatest thinkers in the world, involves a certain amount of suffering. Don't kid yourself with the Lamborghinis and the penthouses and the dollars in the bank account that's marketed online as success. Not that those things are wrong, because I love those things. I love nice cars. I love living in a penthouse. I love making millions of dollars. Those are all great things. I love all those things. But that isn't success. It's success if that's what you want to do. I know some people that have done all that stuff and they hate their life. They're miserable. They're comparing themselves to somebody else. They're comparing themselves to someone. Like if I just compared myself to Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was my boyhood idol, I am an absolute 100% complete failure. Complete on every level. But I don't determine my success by that. And I'd probably hate Arnold. I'd be jealous of him. When I met him, I was so happy that I got to shake his hand and thank him for his contribution to my life. And, he did something really special, and he created a really magic moment for me. And it was a private moment that we had and with some friends, and it was really nice. And so that's all I need. That was all, they always say don't necessarily meet your mentors. You might be disappointed, but he didn't disappoint me because I wasn't comparing myself to him. I was appreciative of what he had contributed in my life, the values and systems that he taught me that was allowed me to have success. Wait, is he all that? And he's like, no, I don't need to know all the other stuff. It doesn't matter. And going back to you, if your vision for your life and your goals for your life and your accountability system and your process system is lined up with your values, I'm writing this down because it's so important. If it's lined up with your values, you are success the day you're moving forward. Like the day I did not take the job in the warehouse and took the job in the bar, I was successful because I was moving towards my vision. I was moving towards my goals. I was creating a process and a system of measurement that was in alignment with everything that was right for me. And it didn't matter what everybody think, because everybody around me thought I was cuckoo. And maybe I was. And maybe you're a little crazy too. I think we're all a little crazy. I think that crazy people of the same kind hang out together so they don't notice their own craziness. It's just when you meet people with different craziness that you run into trouble. You go, that person's crazy. They walked away and said, you're crazy. Who's right? It's the same thing as success and failure. They're these arbitrary definitions that don't actually really exist in the world today, clearly. They are a label that we slap onto someone, okay? Robin Williams is a great example. Maybe one of the most successful people ever. The guy was a world-class comedy. He made millions of people laugh. Not only was he an award-winning comedian, he went off and won an award, a prize, you know, the highest awards you can get. I forget what they call them in Hollywood because I'm not a Hollywood guy. In drama, right? He, all this sort of stuff. And the guy ended up killing himself. Somewhere there was something out of alignment. Somewhere he didn't have that feeling. There was a sense of hopelessness that emerged more and more as he reached this definition of what everybody in the world would classify him as successful except him. And that's why it didn't matter. And I don't want you to have that in your life. So what holds you back? What holds you back from taking the action that you need? What holds you back from doing what's necessary? What happens from holding you back of doing the sets and your reps in life? What holds you back from going through the pain of learning something new, the pain of failing in a public place, quote unquote, by, you know, walking out on stage and bombing, by hitting up a sales pitch and it not working out, by starting a business and it goes broken the next 6 months. All of those things. Why are they held back? They're held back because you fear, you've been conditioned to be in fear about the outcome. What if that girl does not respond to when I talk to her, or that guy? What happens if I go for the sale and they say no? What happens if I try to get the financing and they say no? What happens if I go for the acting gig and it doesn't work out? I compete in the contest, I don't win. What happens? Because the definition around that is narrow, because you're going to have to hit those failure points in order to have that vision. You are going, nobody knows this, nobody knows life all out. Nobody's got it all figured out. Don't kid yourself. All the courses and all the trainings and all the events and all the public things are not going to get you. You are going to continually have to course adjust as you go towards your vision in life. The things that you don't know are like, you don't know. You don't know what it's going to take to hit that ultimate vision. You don't know what obstacles you're going to fight. You might get sick, right? You could have an illness that comes up that takes you out for 5 years. You could have a person in your life that gets sick and you got to take care of them for years. You might have you might get 5 years down the road on something, and like I did in university. I was in 4 years in university, and I realized this isn't for me. I walked out of my finals because I discovered in university, I discovered in that moment what my values were. Now, my friend again, John, which I talked about earlier, the physicist, he said, oh, you know what, I'm with you, Wade. I'm going to quit too. This university's not working for me. I went, whoa, 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 whoa. Don't let me define what you should do as success. Define what you do. Why don't you go talk to someone that's relative that can see your talent and ability and drive and determination and realize it's not being fulfilled. And he went to the right person that said, hey, do this. Just like I went to the right person, saw an experience and went, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm going for this. I'm getting back in alignment. And it's always a course adjust. And especially today, the distractions in our life, the phone messaging, the social media messaging, the phone calls that come in, all this stuff is issues. These are things that distract us. They take time. They take attention units. They suck you away from the things that you need to be doing. So what do you need to be doing? Again, I'm going to hit it again. Ask yourself, what's my vision? Have I set goals for that vision? Do I have some sort of accountability program, both internal and external? You need both. Right? Am I doing what I need to do when nobody's looking? And when and do I have somebody looking over my shoulder to make sure that I'm doing what I'm doing, or what I'm doing is actually working, so I can adjust the third piece, which is the process. This is the VGAP program: vision, goals, accountability, processes. And you keep upgrading your processes to get better accountability so that you hit your goals, and eventually your goals lead to your vision. It goes top down and then bottom up. This is these are constantly changing. And then when you get to a certain point in your goals, oftentimes your vision starts to change. And so then you go back down through the goals and your accountability and your process, and then back up your process, accountability, goals, and back to your vision again. This is the endless cycle of life. And it can be fluid. And you can have fun doing it. You can wake up every day and enjoy the process. You can enjoy the grind. You can celebrate the grind. You can tell stories about the grind, because I'll tell you what, when you hit your goals, when you hit your success, it is not the victories that will mean as much to you as the struggles. So let me ask you a question. Are you struggling right now? Are you in a work situation? Are you trying to learn a new skill? Are you trying to build a business and you're not getting the results you want? You're trying a sales process, it's not working. You're trying a marketing campaign, a social media campaign, it's not working. You hear about successes, you're rating yourself, and I'm failing, it's not working. I'm spending money, I'm spending time, it's not working, it's not working. How do you handle that? How do you handle when you're not producing the result you want? How do you handle those moments where you're not feeling it? How do you handle, quote unquote, failure? I ran a campaign, nobody jumped onto it. I did a public speaking event, nobody responded. How do you handle that? I'll tell you what you do. You take it as feedback as part of your accountability process, and you course correct. You upgrade your knowledge. You upgrade your process. You double down. You eliminate more distractions. You get bone-crushing honest with yourself. You determined, you know what? I'm only putting an hour a week into my campaign. An hour a week? You think you're going to be successful on an hour a week, or 5 hours a week, or 10 hours a week? You want to make $100,000 a year? And you want to work 1 hour a week or 10 hours a week? No. You got to go to the next level. You got to be willing to work whatever it is. And the more clear your vision and goals and accountability and your process is in alignment with your values of who you are, that's defined by you, the more energy, the more enthusiasm, the more drive, the more you're going to be willing to stay up late and get up early, and the more willing that you're going to push through the challenges of your business, that you're not going to see the setbacks as failures. You're going to see them as learning experiences and opportunities to grow more. You do not build muscles without pressure and stress. You do not win in championships without pressure and stress. You do not win in life with relationships without pressure and stress, accountability, and processes. You just don't do it. You will never grow if you don't test yourself. And most of us have been put in a system to get a C+ or a B, and that's good enough for a pass. It's not good enough in life. It's not good enough. A B is not good enough in life, not in your life. Why can't you live in an A? Why can't you live at an A+ level all the time, everywhere you go, for the rest of your life? You can start today and never look back, because you're not falling into the success, failure, stupid trap that people get caught in. Don't get caught in that. Get caught in moving toward your vision. You know, I lost contests. I didn't win anything for 10 years. I did not see myself as a failure. It's kind of amazing. It's kind of amazing. I kind of wonder about that. I believe a lot of that had to do with my parents. I believe somehow, somewhere, somehow they instilled something into some belief in me that just keep going. You can do whatever you want and never quit until you get there. And that's what I did. I didn't win the Mr. Universe, which was my goal at 15. I didn't win that contest. I won something else, because after that contest, I met a group of boys that I did a session for. I met them before the show, actually, and after the contest, I went to their home, and there was several hundred people in this whole community. We did a great training session and taught these guys, and we had a wonderful experience, and I realized something. I realized that it wasn't winning contests that I wanted to do. I wanted to make an impact. And it took me 16 years to discover that truth. It took me 16 years of training and working out and suffering and failure, as some people would say, and losing contests and struggling financially and all those things. And after that, I discovered I wanted to make an impact. A friend of mine who was another personal trainer helped out, introduced me to internet marketing. We started a business. The next thing you know, I'm known as a bodybuilding champion that's advertising programs. I'm selling programs just like Arnold Schwarzenegger was. I was the only vegetarian that was in. People were out giving me contracts for supplement companies because I was unique. Hadn't done drugs. No one had done that before. I got fame. I got fortune. Not because I was a winner, but because I stayed aligned with my values and I discovered who I was in that process. And I'm going to say this to you: if you set up your vision, your faith, your accountability, your goals, your processes, if you put that together in full faith that you will get there. That's the key element. Full faith. Full faith no matter what. Look at Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players ever to live. He missed more buzzer beaters than anybody else, 9,000 failures. Look at Brett Favre, threw more touchdowns, more interceptions, blown more games, and won. Right? Look at Babe Ruth, struck out 3 times for every home run he hit. Okay? One of the greatest hitters of all time. If you look at Colonel Sanders in business, 10,009 no's before someone got his chicken recipe. Colonel Sanders. At 65 years old, it's never too late to redefine your vision, your success for yourself, and what you can do and what you can do for your life and what you can do for others. So if you're feeling that you're not successful, if you're feeling that you're not winning, if you feel that you're not doing as well as other people, or you should be, what you need to do first and foremost is redefine your vision, your goals, how you're accounting, and what your process is, because somewhere in that mess, you haven't gotten clear, and you wouldn't have got this in school because they don't teach this in school. There's not a system to teach this in school because that's taught for the old school. One time, success, what the school system was built in a time where you got a job, you got an education, you got a good job, you got full pension and benefits, you raised a family, you had kids, your community, and that was cool. And that still works in some places. It's just less and less people can make it in that world. So the question comes down to, how do you want to make it? How do you want to do it in your world? How do you want to define how this is going to work out for you? So, but if you don't define it, if you don't write down your vision, if you don't write down your goals, if you don't create some sort of internal accountability process that's more important than the external, and then an external on top of it to regulate the two, and then keep upgrading your process, you're going to suffer. And you're going to suffer meaninglessly. I was able to subject myself to extreme levels of torture. There's no other way to put it in my bodybuilding career, because I had defined the meaning of what that pain meant. If you're struggling in your business or your life, you can't make the rent or the bills or something's not going on, it's how you define that struggle which will determine how you tolerate it. You see, if you find meaning in the struggle, if you find meaning in the pain, and if it's in alignment with your values, and you're in a process which is taking you towards your goals, which are part of your vision, then you're on track if nobody in the world believes you. Nobody in the world believes you. It does not matter. And I would put forth this: if you are really on your vision and you're really in alignment with yourself, the people around you where you are right now will probably define you as crazy. They will probably wonder what you're doing. They'll probably be kind of curious. Why are you trying this new marketing thing? Or why are you starting off that new business? Or why are you going into that fitness contest at 50? Because you have decided to define your life on your own terms. You've decided to be in alignment with what makes you happy and what makes you right for you. And you are not letting your life or success be determined by other people. You are determining it. You are not seeing the temporary circumstances of your life as failure. These are earmarks of your eventual successful story. And when you hit your success, and you will if you do this process and stick with it for as long as it takes, you will revel in the struggles, you will revel in the challenges more than you will revel in the victories. And I can tell you this because I've got probably, dozens and dozens of friends in the internet marketing world who have made millions of dollars. Many of these people are YouTube sensations, and they'll all tell you the same thing. Most people are striving for a financial goal of success. And Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist, determined that there is actually no increased level of happiness that's measurable after $150,000 of income. What will determine your happiness? It's not that you can't be happier after that. I don't think that that's what he's trying to communicate. He's trying to think there are other things in your life that will give you more happiness than more money. Because the more money you make, the more problems you're going to have. You can just buy your way out of them. You're going to have a whole bunch more challenges to go by and to get past on that. So that's okay, right? You got more stuff going on. And if you don't define that, even if you have everything that the world determines, it says you're beautiful, you drive a great car, you live in a great neighborhood, you've got a great relationship, but you've got a hole in your heart because something inside you is eating you up, because deep down inside you know you're not in alignment. And if you're not in alignment, you won't take that extra step. You will not go out and do the thing that you really want to do. You won't go for the job that you really want. You won't be with the person that you really want to be. You won't have the job that you really want. You won't learn the skills that you really need to learn to be successful, to be great, to make a difference, because you're out of alignment somewhere. And it's sad. Sad. That's why I do these videos. That's why I care. That's why I reach out to people, is because there's a lot of people in the upside of social media is that it's a fantastic way to connect with people all around the world, to find people who are just like you, to find a vision in a world that's right for you, and to move forward in a way that's right for you and relative to you, or to find people who are just like you and can help you along your way. And it can also be a reflection of your misalignment with your own values. that you're out of alignment because you're trying to chase someone else's determination of success. And even if you get there, you will not be happy. You will not feel fulfilled. You will question everything that you've done. And there's a lot of people that get to life in the regret stage because of those things, or they never took a shot because they failed once. They threw the football pass at high school and they lost the championship. They failed at the recital in school and people laughed at them. They started a business, it went broke, and their friends and family that invested in it were mad at them. So the pain was so great is they shut down. And I'm here to tell you that quote unquote failure, not producing the result you want, is an essential component of the learning process. It is an essential component of course correcting so that you take the results, you take the action, you take the steps. It's an external representation. It's an external accountability process. That's all. The internal accountability process is, are you doing what you were meant to do? Are you doing what you want to do? Are you doing what you were born to do? And most people, if they really thought about it, they actually know what that is. Really deep down in your soul, it's probably what you were interested in when you were like 6 or 7 years old. You know, because you haven't been tainted too much at that point. You haven't been civilized, right? You're not a civilized person anymore, right? And civilization is the art of domesticating the human spirit so that you live your life like a caged animal, enslaved to someone else's determination of success. And if you follow that program, you're going to be in trouble. And so go back across your life, take apart your quote unquote successes, take apart your failures, look at what's really, really important to you, what makes your heart sing, what makes your heart feel good, what feels good right in your gut, and follow that no matter what, fearlessly, wherever it goes. Walk out onto that stage, go for that sales pitch, take that course, invest in yourself. Tell those people to get out of your life, ask those people to come into your life. That's when you become an electromagnetic being that attracts success to you, whatever that is, because its success isn't really determined by an external thing, it's an internal, inside job. And the second that you're doing what you are meant to do, what you want to do, what feels right to you, for you to do, your success that moment. You can be successful in a second. And no matter how many outside things that you're doing, if you haven't clearly defined that, you're not really truly successful as a human being. You might have money, you might have status, you might have credentials, you might have a great location, whatever that is. But you're not really, really successful because you're out of alignment with yourself. And that's the darkest thing that can happen to anybody. It leads people to the midlife crisis, the regrets of senior years. And you might be in a situation that you didn't imagine. Maybe you're stuck somewhere, that you're not in a situation that you thought you wanted to be in. Redefine your success in that moment. Readjust your vision and your goals, right, with the circumstances that you're in. And work from there, but don't let your circumstances keep you from getting what you really, or expressing who you really are. Expressing who you really are is success. That's the better way to put it. Express who you really are. Don't take no for an answer. Don't let other people stomp on your dreams. Don't let other people determine that you're successful or you're failure. Unplug yourself from the beliefs and the systems and the projections onto everybody else. Go after what you want. Reach for your dreams. Take that new course. Embrace the new world economy. If you do this, you can live like no other humans in history. If you don't, you'll suffer like the millions before you and the millions that will come after you. You make the choice. I'm Wade T. Lightheart from the Digital Republic. Coach Wade, giving to you another live rant. Thanks so much for joining us. Next week, we will be going on to another piece. Can't wait to share it with you. Love you so much. Take care. Reach out. Private message me. Email me. Digital Republic, Wade Lightheart at Gmail. You know how to reach me. You know where I am. Love you all. Take care. Good night.